Hi everybody, I'm Chris Watson, and welcome to this edition of the NYSPHSAA Captains Club, presented by the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association. Today we're at Shaker High School in Section 2 to introduce you to Marbry Gansle, whose commitment and dedication to student athletes across the state is hard to match. There are certain people that are born with the can't sit still gene. Marbry Gansle is one of those people.
I grew up on a dairy farm, so my work ethic working on the farm has always been really strong and committed. Obviously, you can't just let the cows go. You have to milk them twice a day. I know that sounds funny, but I always wanted to teach phys ed since second grade. I just loved my elementary phys ed teacher, and I wanted to be just like him, Mr. Lambert. I don't know where he is these days, but he was the one that really motivated me to keep going.
When she wasn't milking the cows, she was playing sports. All the sports.
In high school, I was field hockey, 4 years varsity, basketball, 4 years varsity, gymnastics, 4 years varsity. We could do more than one sport at the same time. I did volleyball 1 year, softball 1 year, track 3 years, and that's about it.
So between playing all those sports and knowing that she wanted to be a physical education teacher, Marbry Gansle's path was pretty clear. She was going to be a coach, but not just one coach, 3 coaches. For the past 42 years, she's been Shaker's varsity coach for cross country, gymnastics, and outdoor track and field. That's 42 straight years across 3 sports for 126 consecutive sports seasons.
I can remember my first day with my colleagues, the phys ed teachers. We were sitting around the conference room and everybody introduced themselves. And I remember Wayne Ruff. He had been working for 22 years. He goes, I can't wait to retire. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm only 21 years old. How could he be teaching as long as I've been alive? And next was Jack Carrier, and he was 21 or 23 years. I'm like, oh my God, how can these guys teach this long? But it went really fast, and I doubled it.
And she doesn't even just coach. See, that's the one thing that I learned as an athlete. I'm just like, oh, she's our coach. And then working side by side, she's like, I'll be back in 10 minutes. She's working on like the prom committee and feeding all of these kids at the prom and planning. And then she's like, oh, I also have this meeting and that meeting and scholarships. She's on the board for the scholarships. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get there on time, and she's sitting there like multitasking on a totally different level.
I think when I was younger, I didn't realize that because we, saw her in track. I was like, okay, she's our track coach. And then I think as I got older, and even after I graduated, like, Gansle does everything. But would you ever know? Does she ever brag? Absolutely not. And I think that, even to this day, I'm sure there are so many athletes that never truly understood what was done behind the scenes or how much that she did. But I know everyone so appreciates it.
If you're going to be as busy as she's been for the past 4 decades, you better be good at time management.
Stay organized. You can do almost anything. A lot of kids feel they don't have time to do it, but if you can learn to manage your time management is huge, and that'll help you later in life. And being committed will also help you stay focused later in life.
I remember in high school, a guy who I went to high school with, he kept forgetting when gym rotation came up, and he was like, oh, it's study hall. So she says, I'm gonna call you in the morning. And he's like, no, you're not. She's like, I'm gonna call you every time you have PE. I'm gonna make sure that you're up to get here, right? I'm like, there's no way. We all laughed it off. Nope, she called him every single day for that whole section of where he had PE that period. And I just couldn't believe it. And for her, knowing now as a coach, all of the things that she was already doing, and she took that time to make sure that he was there, and he was a great kid. Just some people have to have that one adult that's just sitting there. It was remarkable. So the difference between them, we're like, she's crazy. And then I'm like, no, she's dedicated, she's loving, she has the biggest heart out of anybody I know.
In the middle of her teaching and coaching life, Marbry was also starting a family of her own, raising her daughter Ashley, and having a newborn didn't slow her down.
She would just throw me and say, here, what parent wants to babysit my daughter today? And he'd kind of just bring me along. I think I was 2 weeks old, and I went to the Empire State Games for the first time. I remember being younger, and we would do this called a running school in Woodstock, and I would go to camp with her, and I would want to run those miles with the kids. And girls can tell you, when I was in elementary school down the block at Blue Creek, I was the one that was watching to make sure the girls were running down there when she didn't have their eyes. on them, and I'd be like, hey, they're not running. And then when I joined the team, I learned, ooh, yeah, it's a little tough. I shouldn't have tattletaled so much.
It's great having her by my side, but when she's coaching at a different school and may have somebody that will outperform my athletes, that's a little tough, but I just tell her I taught her everything she knows.
She has the rare ability to make everyone she meets feel like they are the most important person in her life.
She was always there for us, you know, whatever we needed. She introduced me into running. I had no clue about it. And she said, would you like to do cross country? And I said, what is cross country? She explained it to me. I said, sure, I'll do it. Give it a shot. We went out. I joined the team, loved it.
She taught me how to believe in myself, for number one. I was kind of on the cusp between the really good girls and kind of back, so she guided me. She told me that I could always do it without a doubt, and I then started to believe in myself, and so I started performing a lot better.
Staying positive, that I learned that, and like having a good mindset, I learned that from Coach Gansle too.
She taught me a lot of new running skills and improved me a lot as an athlete. I remember my first 5K in a scrimmage. I ran 24 minutes, but then by the end of the season I was able to run 18:30 around, and just my improvement through the season with our workouts. She always made sure that we were fine during our workouts, and if we needed to stop, she would take into consideration, and she knew what was enough, and she was always there to know what our limits were.
Not only knowing limits, but going above and beyond to take care of her kids.
Literally her taking off her sneakers because a girl forgot her bag at the locker room and we're at away meet, and took off her sneakers and gave them to her while she ran is just mind-blowing. It taught me as a coach what it takes. Literally, you're there for the student athletes.
She was a coach, she was a second mother, she was, a phenomenal coach. And, it wasn't just all about what you can do on the track, but, what's going on in your personal life and how's school going, and, what she could do to help build our future. So I think coach is like an understatement. She was so much more than that. So supportive, and no matter what you did out there, she always, had words of encouragement and, what can we work on, but always focus on the positive. And I think that really helped build the incredible program that Shaker is and will hopefully continue to be.
She goes above and beyond. She's taught me to give 150% and be passionate about anything I do. I've seen, she used to take care of me obviously as a kid, but when I went off to college, all of a sudden she started bringing tubs of food to meets, and I would come home and I'd be like, what is this? And she's like, well, I have all these other kids to feed now, like you're off at college.
There comes a time when a coach has to deliver tough love, and that's what happened to Beverly when she ran for Coach Gansle.
We had just lost a race, and we were clowning around, kids clowning around, and she stood up on the bus and she said, did we win or lose? And we were all like, we lost, we're cracking up, and she said, I want you guys to think about that. Did you give it your best? Did you try your hardest? And we're still cracking up. She took us in, she sat me, because I was the captain, sat us down, and she says, you guys are done. And not until you come back and apologize to the team and to the younger ones, the importance of, doing a good job, doing your best. I was like, oh, jeez. So I'd come back in front of the whole team, apologize, tell them why, the importance of it. And I was like, geez, boy, humble pie here because of Marbry. But we did it, but learned a lot from Marbry.
Another thing Marbry has always stressed is grades.
I always encourage students to be students first. I tell them that. I expect them to have very good grades, and every year we've won the Scholar Athlete thing. But that's number one for me, is being a good student, and if they're having trouble, I tell them there's kids on the team that can help tutor them. They can stay after for extra help, but they need to be organized, get that job done first. Athletics, I say second, but actually family second. But they need to stay focused, stay committed to everything, and do the best they can.
Always made sure, you were on top of your schoolwork. If you didn't do your schoolwork, you weren't participating in cross country or outdoor track. She made sure if you needed help, Marbry would get you help. Not a problem with any of that. She was always there for that stuff.
Maybe the most important thing Coach Gansle taught any of her teams was you are never in this alone.
Any athlete that joined one of her teams became another family member. And, being a part of the cross-country track and field program, it was spending time with your family. It wasn't, oh, I have a meet and this and, sacrificing family time. It was, this is my family and I'm going to spend time with my family. Seeing them succeed after high school into college, and, you got kids that she taught that never wanted to run the high school mile that are now running marathons, and that impact, is crazy.
Anyone that's been to a track meet knows that you're not just there for an hour, you're there for hours on end. But it was never, okay, you can go sit down and do your homework. It was, your girls are out there on the track and we're cheering for everyone. And so the team aspect that she, instilled in us was absolutely there at all times.
She always did as much as she could to improve her athletes, and she really worked a lot for her athletes to make them the best that they could be, so that so that they could succeed as much as possible.
I just love North County. I love Shaker High. It's just routine. I just go in every day, do my job, do the extra things. I just love giving back. I do volunteer a lot in the community. I have my athletes volunteer. We always help out at the Hudson Mohawk Roadrunners race, 2 water stops handing out water. We do the Freiheffer run. We've done the Sakati run, water stop. So it's great giving back too.
If it wasn't for Marbry Gansle, I don't think I would be at where I am today.
Despite retiring as a teacher and a coach here at Shaker, Marbry still serves as the state coordinator in the sports of gymnastics and girls cross country for NYSPHSAA. For this edition of the NYSPHSAA Captains Club, presented by the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association, I'm Chris Watson. We'll see you next time.